Well, hello again from a deserted St James's Park. I know I keep on saying this, but it really is quite something to be the only person left in here knowing what has gone before. Just a couple of hours ago when, again, it was St James's at its absolute best. It was absolutely bouncing from first minute until last and beyond. And do you know what? The one thing I walked away from that match thinking was, wow, the Carabao Cup final really did come at the exact point in the season when Newcastle United least wanted it, because that for me today there showed why Newcastle are a better team than Manchester United, why they're more cohesive all over the park, why they've got better characters. You know, I don't think you would see a Newcastle United performance such as the one Manchester United put in there today. Okay, they can lose matches, but when Newcastle lose, they lose in the right way, like they actually did in the Carabao Cup final. It just come at a time where they'd gone so cold in attack, and because of that, they'd lost their confidence at the back. That there today, the 2-0 victory, bit of housekeeping thanks to goals from Joe Willock and Callum Wilson in the second half. Everything about them from the off was what we've come to know and what we've come to expect from an Eddie Howe team. What had gone around that spell in February and just before it, you know, that really, on reflection, that was the unrecognisable part. You know, a lot of people from perhaps beyond the region had said, you know, I think even myself was guilty of this to a degree, you know, players perhaps reverting to type, but you know, we should never have underestimated them and coming again, and you know, now 3 straight victories to put them back up to third. And Eddie Howe used the phrase afterwards there with us just in the press room, that performance there today was the blueprint for what he wants going forward. And I couldn't agree more. You know, that game back in February at Wembley, I went into it, didn't I? And people said I was being negative, but I thought there was a real inevitability to the defeat that day, and so it proved. Well, coming into this game here today, you know, I thought there was inevitability about Newcastle not losing. You know, I really fancied them for the victory here today. And yes, Manchester United were poor. We'll come on to that in a second, because I thought they were really bad, and you can see why they lost to 7 at Liverpool a few games back, can't you? But for all Man United were bad, I thought Newcastle made them like that, because Luke Shaw said afterwards himself, Newcastle wanted it more. Not only that, Luke Shaw said 2 things. One I agreed with, one I didn't. He said Newcastle wanted it more, and because of that they won the game, not on quality but on desire. Okay, I take the first point, but I also think in terms of quality, how can you make that statement and not look at the names on the team sheet? You know, Marcel Sabitzer up against Bruno Guimaraes, Wout Weghorst, you know, Alexander Isak's at the other end of the park. You know, Sabitzer and Weghorst are Mike Ashley era signings for Newcastle United. Quite how they're in that starting 11 for Manchester United. And you know, you looked elsewhere, Anthony on the right wing up against Dan Burn, you know, which was quite an entertaining duel early on. But is he really, what is he, an £80 million player? Nowhere near. And you know, in the end, we shouldn't really be too surprised when you look at that the Newcastle have run out in the convincing manner in which they did. And in terms of the Newcastle performance as well, wow, where do you start? We're sat down there in the press room and we're talking about a man of the match, and of course there's only Newcastle players in the argument, and I think there's 4 or 5 different names thrown forward. For me personally, I would probably give it to Joe Willock. I just think he's ran into such a brilliant vein of form recently, and he's becoming the player that we always thought he could be, and that he had to become, really. You know, because for too long my criticism of Willock was he was someone who yes, he took the ball from A to B, but he'd then have 10 minutes where he would drift out of a game, and not now. You know, he really is setting the tone, and I thought his performance in the middle of the park, and to put himself in the position to get the goal, you know, it doesn't matter if of course it matters if he scores, it doesn't matter if he scores, but the point I make is for him to put himself in that position in the 6-yard box, to be there for St Max putting it back across there for the opening goal. You know, that is the difference. You know, putting yourselves in that domain to score chances, to miss chances even, you know, just putting yourself there. And Eddie made that point himself as well afterwards. I thought Willock was tremendous, but I thought the midfield 3 set the tone massively, and Eddie might just be looking at that in up against target Scott McTominay and just wondering, you know, is he really an upgrade on the players I've already gotten there? So yeah, I thought it was a bit unfair as well. I think Eric Ten Hag's looked at Scott McTominay score 4 goals for Manchester United during the international break, and bizarrely started him as a number 10 here. He looked totally lost, because McTominay, I cover Scotland. McTominay is someone I do rate quite highly, and I would probably see what he could bring to a Newcastle squad. But certainly on that evidence there today, you'd be looking at the likes of Sean Longstaff and Joe Willock, as I said, and absolutely Bruno Guimaraes has perhaps been better than him. But I suppose the mitigation for Manchester United was that the two players who really made the difference in the Carabao Cup final, the scorers, Casemiro was missing here today, and Marcus Rashford, he just didn't look the same player at all, did he? I think that was in part perhaps down to the fact that he's missed a bit of training during the international break, but also he was up against Kieran Trippier, who probably, again, Trippier is another one I want to make mention of. I thought that was his best game for a long time, because as much as Trippier is a standard bearer in terms of he wears the armband and being an absolutely tremendous sign, and I do think, if I'm being honest, in terms of performance since the World Cup, he hasn't been at the same level. I thought there today 100% he was back to that, and what a cross it was for Callum Wilson, who came on to get the second goal there. Now on Rashford, he was among a group of Manchester United players who were dragged back out of the tunnel on full time to go and offer their applause to the Manchester United fans up there on level 7. The only problem was they'd all gone by that point. They would have been better off offering the applause about 5 minutes earlier, before the fire drill, shortly after Callum Wilson's goal. So, in the significance of this result, of course, is that it puts Newcastle back up into third position, and during the sticky spot, January going into February, early March, you were looking at the Champions League and thinking, yeah, maybe it has gone. Maybe it was a season too soon. Not now. The bookies have got Newcastle at odds on to finish in the top 4. And the man who was walking away just over my shoulder there, Eddie Howe, when I asked him a question afterwards about the Champions League, he said, "Champions what?" Yeah, I was naive enough to repeat the question. I'm just going to give Eddie a little quick shout out goodbye now. See you later. I'm just talking about that question I asked of you when you fooled us. The Champions League question. I've had 2 weeks off. I'm not at the pace, Eddie. Oh, really?
No one's getting my sarcasm.
See you later. Well done. I think the point Eddie was making was that he's not yet willing to entertain talk of the Champions League. Well, he should. Because, like I said, the bookies now have got them at odds on to finish in the top 4, and I think it would be a travesty if they didn't see that home. You look at that performance there today. Tottenham, who are the rivals? Well, they've just beaten one of them, Manchester United. They look a better team than they are. The other is Tottenham, changed manager. They're in turmoil, so to speak. Chelsea have just changed manager half an hour ago as well, even though you'd look at them and think their challenge is gone. You're probably thinking it's perhaps the likes of Brighton, with the players they've got, who probably offer one of the most realistic threats. Liverpool as well, but they didn't look great again yesterday down at Man City, and that's a little bit of a healthy cushion re-established over them for Newcastle. So yeah, my big takeaways from today were that was a team who looked back in the groove, back to what we know they can be, back to where we know that they really should be under Eddie Howe. Because I've spoken many times on this before, haven't I, about just how highly I do rate Eddie, and yeah, as much as he won't entertain talk of the Champions League, I will. And I think that now, during the 11-game run-in, bearing in mind everyone bar Miguel Almiron is fit, that should be the absolute aim for the remainder of this season. So yeah, I just think now, with the position they've put themselves in, with 11 matches of the season remaining, that top 4 has to be an absolute must. And would it be too soon? Well, not for me. I've said this before, that this club, for where it wants to go, cannot move quickly enough. And if you secure Champions League football, that might just allow you to put a zero on the end of some of those sponsorship deals and accelerate the journey you want. And yeah, they were certainly moving quickly and in the right direction out there today. A tremendous performance, well deserved. And yeah, well, I'll see you again during the week. Again, got to remind you, please click on the links through to our coverage from the Daily Mail. Keep on doing that, keep on coming back for more, and I'll see you again during the week. I hope you've enjoyed this one tonight, guys. Take care. Bye bye.